The harsh elevation changes and fast sweeping bends of Brand Hatch are replaced with bumpy streets, hard 90-degree bends, and walls desperately trying to seek out any driver caught slacking on corner exit. It's one of the most famous temporary street circuits in history, taking up just under 2 miles of California roads. Welcome to Long Beach, and welcome to Friday Night Primetime. I'm Nolan Rempel with Connor and Matic behind the cameras, and joining me in the commentary box for today's race. Since 1990, sports cars have been racing here. It was IMSA GTO and GTU back in 90 and 91, Rolex Sports Car Series in 2006, the American Le Mans Series from 2007 to 2013, the official IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship in 2014 onward. Today, the iRacing IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge makes its return for round number 8. So, Connery, with all of this in mind, what do you reckon we can expect in the 30 minutes around this tight little circuit? What do you think it's going to have in store for us?
Yeah, this has one of those things where it has the potential to get pretty chaotic pretty quickly, all things considered. So lap one's going to be so important here, just to really keep yourself out of trouble and make sure that you can get back around to see the start of that second lap. But as long as most drivers are able to do that, then we should be in for a very good show here today. We're currently watching Pascal Sticks on the static cams right now, doing his qualifying effort. Driver's got 4 minutes in qualifying there or thereabouts with the 2 flying laps that they have to do, and qualifying might well be important here because you don't want to get stuck in that mid-pack chaos.
You absolutely do not. Getting caught up in the mid-pack chaos is the exact perfect way to find yourself in some serious trouble here. The TCR field is lacking someone, as we've been discussing earlier, just before this broadcast here, Connery. Not a lot of cars actually elected to go for the Audi RS3 LMS. In fact, only about 8 or 9 or so are actually out there in the touring cars. The rest are out there in the GT4 machines, and we're even seeing the McLarens come out to play a little bit more. We've got 4 right now that are trying to go out there and set qualifying laps, but despite that not seeming like a big amount, that's still a good, 2 more than we've been having all season long.
Yeah, absolutely, and well, it's a little bit of a change from what we are used to seeing here, all things considered. But it's again, even though the TCR pack is relatively small, I would expect it to give us the same amount of fun as we've been seeing on a day-to-day basis. As you see, Pascal Sticks here head his way across the line, currently provisional pole position in that GT4 class, and with the time winding down as it is at the moment, Nolan, there's going to be not really all that much opportunity for anyone else to say anything about this.
Especially with almost a 4/10 gap from Pascal Stakes down to Andrea Carrera Martins down there in the second position. There is George Simmons just crossing the line. He puts himself up on provisional pole for the TCR category. It was Michael Polasek on pole just about 30 seconds ago, but then you saw at the left side of the screen, Guinness topped that time in boards by about 0.2 of a second, while Simmons just put another 10th up on Guinness to go top of the charts here in that number 2 car. George Simmons has been a driver who has been so fast all season long in that car. He's one of the best TCR drivers he got out here on the surface, so no doubt this track will even be putting him to the test today.
Yeah, it could well be. It's one of the most challenging tracks on the surface, I would say. Yes, mostly because you have no room for error. It's a true street circuit in that respect. So get a foot out of line, there's going to be a concrete wall coming up on you rather quickly, and it can take no prisoners, especially in races such as this, where in the TCR category they are so close. We might even see some spicy action in the GT4s here this time around as well. Most of everyone has done their qualifying laps, by the way. It's only George Simmons still left out there here in TCRs at the moment, so it's not provisional anymore, that pole position. That is the actual pole position as he heads his way out of the final corner, which might be a bit of a sketchy situation on the first lap on a rolling start in this race. I've seen many official races where there's been an instant before the green flag has even been shown.
Simmons will improve on his lap as well, put almost another 10th up on Guinness for about a 0.206 gap now between himself and the rest of the field. George Simmons, no doubt very happy with that one. 0.02 of a second separating Damian Owen Harris and Corentin Guinness in the battle for second and third and qualify. No time for anybody else in the TCRs that qualify, but everybody there has already set their laps. We're currently watching Joshua Hellrung currently throwing his way around the track. He's already completed his 2 laps. He's just kind of out there at the moment, kind of setting times down, getting a bit of extra practice in, and why not? At a track like this, you need all the practice you can get.
You really do. Very, very tricky to negotiate indeed. You might as well use these last couple of laps in qualifying to just get your sights set. Not so much to learn the circuit, but to learn the track conditions as they are out there because of the iRacing dynamic weather. So the more opportunity you get to acclimatize yourself, the better, as far as I'm concerned. So that's exactly what Jascha Helrung is doing, continuing to circulate out there. Everyone's done their qualifying, so that order that you see on the left-hand side will be how we start, but we'll go over that officially in just a couple of moments here. Final couple of seconds in qualifying, Nolan. We have a race on the way.
Absolutely, dude. 30 minutes of racing action is what we're getting set for. It's going to be a wild 30 minutes, just as every race so far this season has been. Let's take a look down now at your starting grid.
Give it a moment. We'll get our starting grid up in just a couple of moments here, as it's not working for me at the moment. But yeah, it's Pascal Stix on pole position here in GT4s with Andre Carrera-Martins in P2, William Chadwick in P3 with Michael Yanni in P4, Nicholas Stenos in P6 there in GT4s. Everyone else further back got McNewitz P6, Salomon in P7, Kelly McCauley in P8, Baragallo in P9, Korbstein P10, Neil Butler P11, Durgovic in P12, Mike Hart in P13, Helrung P14, Sam White P15, Adrian Cox, Mario Herzog and Simeon Mihalyov will round out the 18-car starting grid here today in GT4's, Nolan.
George Simmons for the TCRs kicks it off on pole position by about 0.2 of a second. Courtney Guinness is beside him on the front row. Damian Owen Harris is in third. Polasek is in fourth. Nicholas Pishner is in fifth with Adam McNally in sixth. Daniel Kell in seventh. Matthew Crisp eighth. George Baldi is rounding out the 8-car TCR field. And I'll round out the 27-car GT4 field. It's worth noting as well here, Connor, that the few McLarens that we have, the 4 of them, all lining up at the very back of the GT4 field. One of them being Mihalyov, not setting a qualifying lap either. So I think that bodes ill, though, for the overall race pace of those McLarens.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see once we get into racing conditions to see if, well, tides turn during the race, I suppose, as these guys starting to, well, getting themselves gridded up here. Of course, we only have a partial pace lap here due to, you know, the iRacing administrators being very nice, I suppose. They could do a full pace lap if they wanted. That is an option now for hosted sessions and league sessions and the like, but we're off the way. We are rolling here in the Michelin Pilot Challenge at Long Beach. This lap might be fast, it might be furious. Hopefully everyone survives to see lap number 2, but Nolan, this is your call coming out the final corner.
Coming out of the final corner, the TCR field just now started to roll. They got to scramble a little bit, get themselves formed up. Contact already in the back for the GT4s between Jenny and Denos, door to door, but we are green flag racing here at Long Beach. Pascal Stix off and away as they cross the start-finish line of the run down towards turn number 1. Side by side for second with Carrera-Martins trying to get back past William Chadwick after Chadwick got the drop on him in the run number 2nd. Chadwick's trying to cover Martins off and down for turn number 1 of the GT4 field, still trying to keep themselves nice and tidy. And we have had one car get spun around in the back. Maybe it looks like though we're all well and good. So far, no contact for the GT4s. Down to pound second. The TCRs blazing up for turn number 1.
Yeah, TCR pack is actually spread out quite early on here on the pace lap. So you can see the front 3 breakaway there of Simmons, Guinness, Harris. And then the next train headed up by Pignoy, who almost overcooks the first corner there, able to recover in quite swift fashion though. Polasek behind him, Chris, McNally and Kell. So that's all the TCR pack through okay, apart from Jojo Baldi, who seems to have had some issues early on, and he's taken the tow back to pit lane. But the rest of the TCR cars are through and fine. Meanwhile, look at this huge train of GT4s here, Nolan, my word.
And they actually just now got single filed out. As you can see, Gillian Salomon trying to have a go at the inside of Michael Janey. Janey was side by side with Denos for about the first half of the lap there, as a matter of fact, through the entirety of the first lap here. So it's been a very clean start, though, all things considered. Oh, they're going to really bunch up here. Oh, there we go. One car gets sent around right at the apex. That's Ben, Kelly, and McKelly, and that is terrible news for them. 3, 4, 5 cars getting stacked up in this here. Very messy here. One more car gets sent around up in front. That's Mike Hart that now gets spun. And the TCRs are coming up on the field now, but it looks like they're going to just barely be clean by the time they get themselves back through.
Yeah, this was a little bit of a mess here. We'll get to see it on the replay here. What exactly caused... Oh, it was just a big old concertina effect, wasn't it, Nolan? Everyone just kind of slowing up for each other, not wanting to run into the back of each other, and then the cars behind coming up on that rather quickly have absolutely nowhere to go at such a tight portion of the circuit.
Well, McConnell, it was kind of all over the place. He was trying to get out of people's way, but I mean, when you're in that situation, it's really just kind of best to just sit where you are and let people find their way past you. Because if you're moving around like that, that's how you get these big pileups like that. In fact, a couple of the McLarens that were just trying to mind their own business after being over a second off and qualifying, they got caught up in this one as well. So Mike Hart and Giorgio Baldi have both pulled off now in this one, and that was a big pile up there at the hairpin. That's one of the really kind of the big problems with this track is that hairpin. It is so tight that usually any spin that results in a big accident like we have just seen. The battle for the overall lead, though, in GT4s is still mighty close. Chadwick is still trying to find a way past Pascal Sticks. Coming up down to the end of lap number 2, Sticks is still led both laps so far throughout the opening stages here in this race at Long Beach.
Yeah, so setting us up for a pretty neat race so far here with the top couple of cars keeping themselves relatively close together here in GT4s. It is a quite considerable gap for them back to P4 though, so it's more or less a 3-car breakaway here at the very front. Same could be said for the TCRs as well. So same situation in both classes here today. Sticks holding on to the race lead now, the overall race lead in GT4s, but Chadwick and Martins will try and make his life hell for the next less than half an hour. Go on.
One of the McLarens just been sent around here, Connor. Sorry to cut you off here, but Mario Herzog is sideways out of turn number 1, and they were trying to go side by side in turn 1 with Sam White. Didn't quite go the way White wanted to, after a big lunge for him.
Yeah, let's have a look at it then as they're heading away down the pit straight here. This is Mario Herzog. Is the yellow, green, well, slightly green and red car trying to take it wide, well, too wide through turn number 1, and then collects an innocent bystander behind. Believe me, trying this track on iRacing, I have done that many times where you overcook the first corner there, so it's so it's not an unusual incident there, but again, maybe at this sort of more top level with the top split guys, maybe you see that that incident not quite as often, but there we go. Like I said, it does happen coming into there. It's very, very tricky corners to get right. The brake markers aren't incredibly obvious there on the side of the track, and of course it's a bit of a weird trajectory coming in, and that wall kind of juts out at you as well, so it's a very, very tricky section, and I'm not surprised people have problems.
And they're still side by side in the back there as well. Now White's going side by side with Kelly McCauley in the run down to turn number 1. We saw well this win the last time by a bit more contact in that battle. That sent Sam White a bit wide this time through as they doored each other coming in for turn number 1. And Jonas Kummerstein just behind White now trying to find his way through. The McLarens do not have the pace at all here. These Porsches that are behind them, they were caught up in that lap 1 pileup in the final hairpin. They're just trying to find their way back through. And look at Kummerstein really applying the pressure here to Sam White, trying to find a way past that 22 McLaren.
Pretty spicy battle here for that for P12 in the GT4 class. Let's have a look with Jonas Koberstein there. He's that orange and black car right in the middle of this, trying to lock onto the back of Sam White ahead of him, trying to get the speed off the corner, and he has got a whole bunch of momentum here coming down the back straight towards the final sector of the lap, gets the nose into the inside, is fully alongside, and he is let go by Sam White. Clinical pass there from Jonas, puts him up on position. P12, next one on the list is about a second down the road, which is Ben Kelly McCauley.
And Bubba Galler is just behind Sam White as well, trying to find his way past. Like I said, those McLarens, they just don't have a lot of straight line speed here at this track. I think the Porsches are just so much better in the corners than these McLarens are. I mean, we saw in qualifying over a second slower from the fastest of the McLarens to the next car up in the Porsche field. And now you can see Bubba Galler trying to go down the inside of Sam White. And this time the pass will be completed cleanly. And that is going to bump Sam White back down to 14th now.
Yeah, so 2 positions lost in quick succession there for Sam White, which is relatively unfortunate. You can see how close these cars are getting to the walls at the moment. They're just sending out sparks left, right, and center, trying to find the time out there on circuit. You know, the closer to the walls you get, the more speed you can carry through on exit of some of these corners, for example. So you want to use as much real estate as possible to be able to carry the speeds, but you push that little bit too much. You just overstep the mark just a little bit, and well, you're gonna scrape that wall at best, and find yourself binned in it at worst.
5th on back to 7th overall is starting to heat up as well. Salomon got really close to Nicolas Denos and almost had a look at him into the final hairpin, but decided better than him back out. And you've got Florian von Minkvitz just behind as well in the number 9 car, trying to maybe find some ground here on the 16 to maybe see if he can put himself up a spot. So you got these cars that are kind of running in this 3-car train, although Denos has managed to break away from this field quite significantly. So it looks like Minkvitz is going to be the one to try to run down Salomon all by himself. Look at how close they get to each other right through the fountain section there. There's just almost nothing between them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fantastic to see these guys do battle, get as close as possible, just as close as they're getting to the walls, but they haven't had themselves any door-to-door action just yet here in this one. We might have to wait just that little bit longer. We'll go on board then with the car of Florian von Minkvitz here in P number 7 in class. You can see P5 a little bit further down the road, and that's the problem here with this circuit. Taps the wall on the exit there, and you've got to be so careful because it's so easy to, just get a little bit of wheel damage, knock the wheels out of alignment, get a little bit of suspension damage if you hit the wall the wrong way, let alone the aerodynamic damage that you're doing. It's high risk but high reward.
Oh, and look at that, trying to get the over-under there on Salomon. There is Minkvitz trying to get the run off the corner, but just not able to quite get the run that he really needs down just out of that hairpin towards the front straight. It was so hard to pass through. Overall race lead is starting to pick on up as well. Chadwick is now having to put sticks on the defensive here, and he's going to try to get the switchback from turn 1 down for 2, but still no dive. So it's all the action here is in the GT4 fields. We haven't seen any real battles going on at the moment in the TCR field. It's all up here in the GT4s, and part of the reason for that is that these guys get so close on the engine of the hairpin, but because of how different you have to accelerate out of it if you're following or if you're leading, the car split up by several tenths of a second. Heck, if you're an Indy car, you can go from having 2 tenths of a second to 7 tenths in just that one final hairpin. We saw that in the Classic IndyCar Series several times taking place throughout that race, and that's why the TCRs aren't able to close on up nearly as much as these GT4s have been.
It's great to see these guys, though. Again, lap after lap, being so close in this group of 3. It's really giving Pascal Stix a very big task. I saw someone mention in the chat just a little bit earlier that he has been absolutely perfect all week, and you can see how close he's been getting to the walls, because at least on my view, he has a driver's side wing mirror hanging off at the moment. So yeah, at least you have the virtual mirror in the sim, but so that's not too much of an issue. That's if the driver runs with the virtual mirror. I know some people don't, but but yeah, it just goes to show how much these guys are pushing and how much it takes to try and keep yourself in the lead of one of these events, especially with all the pressure that's been piled onto the back of your rear bumper.
He's not the only driver that's missing mirrors, as a matter of fact. I mean, Florian von Minkvitz is missing his driver's side mirror because of his hit to the wall earlier on. Gillian Salomon is missing both mirrors after hitting both walls on both ends of the car there. So those little hits to the wall, that's all it takes. Those are very, very fragile mirrors. And they do, of course, have the rear view mirror in their top of their car as well. And these guys usually do have spotters running with them as well throughout these events. So that's, of course, the good news to see is that they will have the spotters help them out. No mirrors typically required, although it doesn't hurt to have them.
Well, I mean, if you ask me, some drivers, it doesn't matter whether they have them or not because they're not going to see you coming anyway. But with Andre Karam-Lyons right now, we're on board with him as he's sort of just tagging onto the back of this. He hasn't really been showing all that much aggression. He hasn't been applying as much pressure to the back of Chadwick as Chadwick has been on the back of Stix, but he's there ready and waiting in the prime position to pounce just in case things go oh so wrong. Almost did there out in the final turn with how close they got to the wall.
Chadwick can get a good run here down the front straightaway. He could potentially have a look here around Stix with the overall race lead down for turn number 1. I don't think he'll be close enough around this time by. In fact, he will not be. He's going to have to keep this one in line. Might be good for a send on the last laps of the race, but not when you've still got just under 20 minutes left to go. kind of keeping tabs on the TCR battle as well, because that's about the same distance away as these three cars are for their own race lead. According to Guinness, has been keeping George Simmons very, very honest in that battle, and it's been slowly closing in over the past few laps. And now you can see Guinness trying to go for the over-under, and Damien O'Hare's just barely waiting in the wings, trying to see if maybe he can find some speed as well.
Yeah, multiple places to look. So both top threes in both classes, it's basically the exact same situation with them being just a couple of tenths of a second away from each other. How long can this last though? Can it go the distance, go the full 18 minutes left remaining, or is there going to be tears before this race is done? Again, sparks fly as they graze the wall there coming out of turn number 1 into the fountain section, get up over that curb, careful of that wall on the left side as well. And then, again, always be cautious of all the walls going through this section. And then, as the road widens out here at the end of the first sector, maybe you can get a little bit of a breather, but see, you don't get much of that sometimes at this track before you're back into very close confines with a very narrow circuit and close walls, and of course other drivers as well, almost on your front bumper and on your rear bumper as well. At least that might be the case for Guinness.
Nicholas Danos lost 2 spots last lap by, lost them both out of the final sector. He's down side by side with Von Minkvitz down towards turn number 1. He's trying to fight back up into the 6th position here. Minkvitz deeper on the brakes for turn number 1, and Dennis is going to have to back out of this one, but it was a brave pass for Salomon all the way down Seaside Way, down that back straightaway through the Firestone turn, and it was actually the big pass came from Minkvitz when Denos got him in the hairpin, believe it or not. So first pass we've seen actually down into that hairpin move all race long. So that caused them to drag race this one out all the way down the front straightaway. So it's been a great battle here for the 5th position overall, as well as, well, I can also tell you right now that William Chadwick just knocked his driver's side off his car as well while he was trying to get a good run through here. But here's the replay of the pass that we saw up into the hairpin just a few moments ago.
Yeah, just taking a look at it, just getting the nose to the inside, going for the easy, well, it's not quite a send. In fact, I think Nicholas really kind of just left the door open there, didn't want to cut across him too much. Of course, he can't afford to do so coming through that section in particular, but yeah, it was more helped by the fact that Denos didn't really turn in, they didn't really fight it coming through that section.
First place just tried to do the exact same thing into the hairpin last time by. William Chadwick got a great drive of overspeed down Seaside Way towards the Firestone turn, but backed off to avoid turning Pascal Sticks as the 3-car completely cut across the 6's bumper on the entry to the hairpin turn, wanted to shut the door, and well, slam the door shut he did, right smack on Chadwick's face. That's putting him now on the defense from Andre Carrero Martins in the battle for the overall race lead as well.
Things get more and more interesting here up at the very front. It has given Sticks a little bit of breathing room there in that race lead gap up to about 7/10 of a second, whereas it was down around about 2 or 3 tenths of a second. So maybe not quite able to get away with a gap that big, but at least he's not got a car all over his rear bumper anymore, and maybe Chadwick looking in his mirrors a little more as well as the Martins tries to make an impact, another little impact with the wall there for Chadwick. Again, you just got to be so careful, because if you hit that wall just slightly wrong, then it's going to severely impact the performance of your car. But of course, you know, these drivers looking fine at the moment, maybe battered and bruised as far as wing mirrors are concerned, but as long as the car's suspension is performing right, it's not a huge loss, I would have thought, out of the final corner for these guys. Under 15 minutes left to go. We're past the halfway point in this event, and to be honest, Nolan, I expected more retirements.
I did too, to be honest with you, and we've in fact seen some guys that we thought that would be back out of the racetrack, Mike Hart being one of them. We thought he was going to be out of the race. Well, he's back in his car and getting out there on the racetrack as well. This is the battle for the TCR race lead that is still going strong. Simmons still leads this train. But again, is in second, Harrison third. Just behind these guys, you see Nicholas Pishner trying to get around Michael Polasek in the battle for fourth in the TCR field as well. So there are quite a few battles here that have yet to be decided, but passing is very much a premium at this circuit. It is so difficult to get the nose in there to be able to make this work. And it's a fact for some of these who might find yourself getting held up, and I think that's what's happening with the GT4 race leaders at the moment, as we see Simmons starting to weave back and forth, trying to break the draft down the pit straightaway, trying to keep Guinness behind. But I think the same thing is happening in the GT4 battle for the race lead here as well, Connery. We can keep our eyes on this for now, because this is definitely still closer. But with the GT4 field, what's been happening there is Chadwick has already run down almost half of the gap back down to sticks. It's the problem of he can't find a way to get past without completely turning the number 3. Oh, and George Simmons is going to get dumped in the fountain section, but saves it.
Yeah, and now we're looking at the onboard view on the roof of Damon Owen Harris, who has the best seat in the house when it comes to this battle, and he might get himself involved in it as well. Very close moment there between the two TCR race leaders, and now Simmons continuing to try and all the way, but he just simply hasn't been able to over the course of this race. Things simmering down, but that could have been the flashpoint that we needed to see some action in this particular battle, because they've been giving each other no room to breathe at the moment, and that's just one of those situations as a driver you have to deal with. You have to sometimes deal with someone on your back bumper the entire event, and you have to deal with that pressure, and sometimes they get a little bit too close for comfort, I suppose.
That's what's happening with the TCR field all throughout this season, not just this race. And Simmons is under a lot of pressure at the moment from Guinness, who's trying to find a way through. Almost gives him the bumper there to the hairpin that last time by. And what's more, throttle their way back out onto Shoreline Drive, coming up for the Bridgestone turn. This is such a crucial fight here, but because he tried to give the bumper, I think that's allowed Simmons to pull a little bit of a bigger gap over Guinness that last time by.
Just a little bit of weaving coming down in towards the first turn. Carefully, don't overcook this one. That wall is well, gets overly friendly if you overcook it into there. And again, Guinness seems to be so much later on the brakes than what Simmons is able to manage at the moment, which is causing him to almost run into the back of him through the entry in the middle of the corner at the moment. Maybe that is slightly intentional. We do have some particularly interesting racing sometimes in TCRs. Of course, that reflects the real world as well, I suppose, but they're not afraid to get physical from time to time, elbows out.
Elbows out racing, that's what the TCRs are designed for. There's a reason why, you know, series like the British Touring Car Championship and the World Touring Car Championship are some of the most exciting series you can probably watch in the world of motorsport, and it's no different here for the Michelin Pilot Challenge, either in real life or in the sim, as a matter of fact. You'll see the same type of racing regardless. Guinness is so much closer to Simmons than he has been the last couple of laps, but it still is not going to be enough to make the dive. It's just too short of a braking zone to reasonably make a dive up into the hairpin, unless you have your opponent who is willing to supremely compromise his own line to give room for you.
Yeah, here's the view back from the point of view of George Simmons, and again, it's the case that Simmons has just been nailing that exit out the final turn, giving no opportunity to Guinness coming down in towards turn number 1. Of course, you know, it's tough to manufacture that opportunity in and of itself if you're the car behind, but when the car ahead is nailing the exit every single time, your chances of getting past are severely diminished. So Simmons is driving very well at the moment in that Apex Racing Academy car. Of course, you have Kenton Guinness, representative of HM Engineering there, and you have Damon Owen Harris in the Fiercely Ford. So three sim racing teams represented here in the top 3 in TCR, and it's great to see that sort of diversity and representation as well for all the different teams out there as well. It's not one team dominating at the very front. We have 3 different ones in the podium.
And we do. It's not very common that we see, you know, several drivers with different nationalities up there in the front for the podium, especially when it comes to these TCRs. But it looks like it might be no different here today. Usually we see a 2, 3, 4. We could be seeing a UK and I 1 and 3 though here for this one, with of course Corentin Guinness, the Frenchman, sitting right in the sandwich between the two of them. So this could be interesting for Simmons. He's only won once this season in the TCR field. He's come so close though and been robbed so many times throughout the course of the season. He would definitely not complain about taking a second win on the season here.
Has to be a little patient in this situation. You never know, you know, Simmons might make a mistake. He's very uncharacteristic in making a mistake, and he might try to force the issue here into the fountain section. That was particularly aggressive there. But again, things are a little bit more fair with the contact in TCRs and some other categories. Owen Harris has just been sitting here in the background very patiently as well. He's just sort of watching and waiting and just sort of feeling out how this battle is going to go into the dying laps of this. But still a good handful of minutes away before the checkered flag, so plenty of time for this to ebb and flow and for it to change. We've also got, of course, that battle for the race lead in overall race lead in GT4s as well. That one's kind of calmed down just a little bit, but again, each one of these battles has the opportunity to go bonkers at any moment, Nolan.
Well, and the way these races tend to go out here, Connor, is the races definitely calm down towards the middle portion. We're in that middle portion now. When we got 5 minutes to go, though, it's all going to kick off. Look at Brands Hatch just last week for an example. They were running completely fine, and then all of a sudden, bam, let's go 3 wide into a corner. You can't even go 2 wide. So, you know, it's stuff like that that makes this racing incredibly fun to watch. And look at this, Chadwick with a big set down the inside. Oh, no! Oh, crash! Chadwick gets set in the wall, and he somehow keeps the car going after all of that. How do you keep a car rolling after that hard of a hit? But Chadwick has got a lot of time to make up now. Assuming he's going to have to come into pit, but he's going to have to here because the front engine hood is just completely destroyed on that car.
Let's take another look at it. Coming down that very long back straight into the final sector. Decent braking zone into here as well, going for the inside there, and oh, just not quite clear. And well, we have to get the view from up above here to maybe make any sort of judgment about this one. So we'll take another look at it. Let's get the chopper view going, as long as we're not obscured by the bridge. Let's see, Nolan.
He went up the inside, and unfortunately, oh my gosh, Pascal's. What Sticks tried to do, he tried to get the crossover, but it looked as though he just slowed down way too much. Chadwick just slid across his nose. Sticks tried to go for the over-under. Definitely wasn't intentional, but it was that contact that sent him hard into the wall. We'll take a look on board here. Watch this. He tries to go for the over-under, but he's still braking. He was still on the brakes, and Pascal Sticks just could not react at times. If he tries to turn out of that, he was going to hit him anyway. He was trying to shoot the gap that wasn't there.
Yeah, he would have to slow up a huge amount, like you said, anyway, but the amount that he did slow up just simply wasn't enough in that situation, which is unfortunate because we saw that battling develop for the race lead and we were starting to get a little excited, but unfortunately it's ended in tears for one of the participants, as Chadwick has actually got himself down on towards pit lane. Not sure if he's going to be able to join us by the time the end of this race arrives, though. He is actually back out there. I am seeing him there with a very wounded GT4 machine at the moment, trying to wheel that car around, trying to gain a little bit of safety rating back, I would have thought. But yeah, that's not how we want any of those sorts of battles to end.
Well, what most likely happened here for Chadwick would be the fact that he probably got a beep ball flag from that, and the reason why he would have gotten that is because the engine hood became unsecured on that car. It was actually kind of flapping around a little bit as he was trying to make it back to pit road, so he likely got the beep ball flag to come in, so all he had to do was just go in there, re-secure that hood with a new pin, and off they send him, and that looks to be what happened because none of the other damage is fixed. The only difference I see is that the engine is no longer at risk of flying up if he goes over 60 miles an hour, which would of course obscure his vision. It would be even more detrimental to his own race, and not to mention other people's races as well. The battle for TCRs is still really hot, though, as Harris trying to go for the inside to Guinness. Guinness is following George Simmons almost picture perfect here, trying to find speed. He's got exactly 5 minutes left on the clock for the TCR battle, and an estimated 4 laps to go. The GT4 leaders, who might actually catch the TCR field at the end of this one, because they're on the same straightaway at this point.
Yeah, so TCRs, if GT4s decide to lap them, they'll, they won't be able to get the extra lap in to try and get these battles. So, you know, if you're someone like, go on. Oh,
Pascal Sticks just dropped down the order. Yeah, you saw it too, right when I did. Pascal Sticks has had a problem.
Let's have a look at it then, to see exactly what the problem might be, if it is a problem. With the final corner. Oh, we got into a bit of a tangle, the car ahead. And he gets forced into the wall. What's going on there? That is with the heat car as well, I think it was, of Chadwick.
Oh, yikes! Talk about a bit of a rejoin there as one beer decides to disobey the laws of physics. Andre Carrera Martins, by the way, has towed it back to pit road, so he's also not in the lead. Michael Jane is the Heritage Race lead for all this because he had suspension damage, but here we take a look on this on board here with Sticks. He got caught with the lap traffic. The lap traffic tried to let him through, and it was just miscommunication. Both cars there were trying to go to the inside to get around the lap car who just didn't know.
Yeah, I thought the Yassi car was William Chadwick, but not. It wasn't. It was it was Andre Carrera-Martinez who was also involved in that big battle for the race leads, and just a bit of lap traffic has ruined both front runners' races here in the final third of this event, or rather final quarter of this event. And now Michael Janney out of nowhere, due to all of his other competitors falling by the wayside, having multiple problems, be it with each other or lap traffic. Now the number 11 leads this race, and we just totally weren't expecting that coming into the final couple of laps.
That's 3 for 3 then. Top 3 front runners that were nose to tail throughout the entirety of this race, eliminated with less than 5 minutes to go in the same 2-lap span of each other. So that means that Jamie, who from 4th place, is going to inherit the lead, but this battle for the GCRs is still not going away anytime soon. And well, that's some of the lap traffic that we were so concerned about, and it's communication. Communication, guys, it's so important on the racetrack, especially if you're a lap car. Sometimes it's just best to let the leaders know where you're going, but that's also the reason why people, oh wow, all 3 cars clipped the wall there. But that example is a perfect example, Connor, of why the sporting code says lap cars, run your line. The leaders will find their way around you, because that lap car stuck to the racing line, there wouldn't have been any issues.
Wouldn't have been. But that's all to run to the bridge now. We've got a TCR battle on for the race lead. Big wide arc being taken on entry there from Guinness, trying to find the speed off the corner. That's something that he's done a little bit different here on this lap to try and gain any sort of advantage whatsoever over George Simmons, who has been doing very well at the very front of this race to keep both of those TCR cars behind him. Always increasing his chances at this race win, but he needs to hold it when it matters most on these last couple of laps here, because Guinness has been aggressive here coming into the fountain section on previous occasions. Does he go even more aggressive? Yes, he does. There's the love tap.
The bump and run. It's a real possibility here with the touring cars. You don't see it too often in road races. It's more of a short track tactic, but hey, why not? You're in touring cars. You know you can save. We know Simmons can save it. He has done it before. So why not? Let's see what we can do here. This is truly a fight on our hands here. With under 2 minutes remaining, the GT4s, they're going to be taking the white flag this next time by.
Yeah, there's the GT4 leaders behind them, or rather a lapped car and a GT4 leader behind them. So, you know, I don't think they're going to catch them in time to be able to end their race early. So we might get the full distance here in this TCR battle. The 3 of them heading their way into the final sector now. Guinness kind of trying to currently carry a lot of speed there through the right-hander, and needs a little bit of time as a result. But does it ruin his rhythm coming through these next couple of corners? Nope, it's going to be absolutely fine. Now Damon Owen Harris getting very close onto the back. They're 3rd in line, coming up across the line now. So 35 seconds left remaining on the clock. And, well, we will be able to see these TCR cars fight to the death, perhaps, as sometimes is the case here in this series. Race leader has also headed their way across the line now, so with 17 seconds left remaining, they're able to do that. So this is technically 2 laps remaining for TCRs, 1 lap remaining for GT4 race leader.
James just now through turn number 1. 5 seconds on the clock here. Oh, look at that. Guinness clipped the wall that time. Just on the exit of that corner there, the very exit of the fountain section. So he started to make mistakes. Guinness is cracking under pressure. Damien Owen Harris, he's not out of this fight either. He's trying to find a way out there to maybe take second away.
Yeah, let's have a look then. Again, get this fan out, spread out a little bit, coming in through the right here as Owen Harris tries to... Well, he's been in that position pretty much the entire race. He's always been the outside observer here, our cameraman about the race lead battle, but he might get his chance to shine here in just a couple of moments. Through the final sector, not for the final time. These TCR cars will have to go around once again, but they get all tight as usual in through the final corner. And Guinness, ooh, that was slow coming out of the final corner there. He might be under threat now.
They're going to take the white flag. So George Simmons, 1 lap to go. Guinness, I don't think we'll be able to catch him. It'll be down to Damien Owen Harris and Guinness in the battle for P2. But from Michael Janney, he's going to come off of the final corner, and he will take victory. The upset winner after the top 3 encounter struggles. Janney wins it at Long Beach. In order to win the race, you sometimes just got to keep out of trouble and keep your nose clean. He did exactly that and came home to take the win. This battle, though, is yet to decide. Now Simmons clips the outside wall.
Yeah, it's all getting a little bit too close. Maybe not with each other, but with the walls now. And again, they're trying to find as much speed as possible coming out of that right-hander. But the overtaking opportunities here are so limited, Nolan. I'm not sure where potentially Guinness could get past. Maybe into the big braking zone at the start of the final sector, coming, well, after they come down the back straight. But that might be his only opportunity, unless he goes for an almighty send into the hairpin, which is something that you never want to see.
Down Seaside Way for the final time today. Will Guinness be brave enough to have the look? He's not close enough for Firestone. He's going to have to make this pass here into that final hairpin if he wants to go for it. One more chance for Guinness. Looks for the left side, trying to go for it in the final corners of the race. Can he make the send here on George Simmons into the final hairpin? Here comes no! Oh, he wins all three of them out. David Harris takes the race lead after both of them, wipes them both out to the line. It's going to be a drag race for second. David Harris will come through. He will take victory here at Long Beach. Drag race number behind though. Simmons takes it, and they crash hard after the checkered flag.
Yeah, you can see Guinness was not happy about that entire situation there. Harris did the send. I was talking about the send into the hairpin just a couple of moments before that happened, and it did happen, but it ends up in a very messy situation here at the very end of the race. Let's take a look back and to see what happened here. Here's the onboard with Damien Owen Harris, which might tell all. He'll angle himself to the inside here for the final corner. The move is covered off as well by Guinness. Punts both of them into the outside of the hairpin. Owen Harris wins this race, but that is very controversial.
And to point out the displeasure, George Simmons is still ranting on about that. He is really letting Harris have it over there Team Comm. So this is... that is not how you want to win a race. And I think Damon Harris tried to slow to allow them to retake the position, but he slowed way too late, and that kind of contributed to the massive incident. That's not how you want to win the race right there. Takes out both of them and just sweeps through to take the victory. You're going to see her. He's going to slow massively just before the line. I think he tried to let them both have it. Oh my gosh. That's just slowing way too late, though. And fourth place nearly got cleaned out by that as well.
So messy situation all around here in this one, and I mean we don't have currently those TCR drivers in for an interview just yet. I probably wouldn't let them have an interview after that one if I'm being completely honest, just being concerned about the language, but my words, that was an absolutely crazy finish here. You'll have to verbally go through the overall standings, Nolan, since they are still, well, actually, we'll do something a little bit more special, and we'll pull it up on the on the left-hand side of your screen there. There's the GT4 finishing order there, Nolan.
Michael Janey takes victory with Gillian Salomon 2.6 seconds back. Florian von Mikvitz in the third. Nicholas Denos in fourth. Pascal Stix is in fifth, with Ben Kelly-McCauley in the sixth position. Neil Butler in seventh. Joshua Helrung in eighth. Alessandro Barbagallo is in the ninth position, with Alexander Duvijnak in the 10th position there. And Jonas Koberstein is going to be in 11th. Sam White is in 12th. Semyon Mihailov coming home in 13th. Adrian Cox 14th. Andrea Carrera-Martins in 15th. William Chadwick in 16th. Mike Hart 17th. Mario Herzog in 18th place. And you, Connery, got our TCR field.
Yep, let's just have a little sneak peek at that. That's how it finished, and I hazard the guess that many people would think it had to have finished in a slightly different way than this. But Damon Owen Harris is your race winner, then George Simmons, then Corentin Guinness. Nicholas Pieknoyer in P4 as well, Michael Polasek P5, Magdalene McNally P6, Matthew Chris P7, Daniel L P8, and then Jojo Boldy unfortunately had problems at the very start of this race, means that he is dead last there, P number 9 in class, and only got past the first couple of laps of the race, if that. But yeah, I mean, the series does find ways to surprise us time and time again, I suppose, Nolan.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. Definitely a surprise to be sure. So we have two upset winners down both classes. Michael Jandy inherited the race lead after the top three all encountered massive struggles. I completely forgot the word, but he inherited the race lead after the top three essentially crashed out within 5 minutes of the race concluding. David Owen Harris took over the race lead by being the one that took out George Simmons and Quentin Guinness. And I have to say, I feel bad for Simmons. He had that race won. He was going for the move on Guinness, and Guinness was just shoved wide right into Simmons, who had nothing to do with that incident there. So that really cost Simmons a win. Once again, the 2-car robbed of a potential victory. He's going to have to stick at 1 for now, but better luck next week at Mid-Ohio, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you got to take these rounds as they come. You know, you got to put stuff like that out of your mind coming into the next couple of rounds of the season, because you can't allow that really to fester and to cloud your judgment a little bit later on, especially if you're racing the same people out there on circuit. Of course, we saw the very harsh reactions at the very end of that with Quentin Guinness making his feelings known with the actions of his car after the checkered flag had dropped, and I guess there's a lot of frustration going on right now. I've seen it in the text chat, and I suppose over the voice as well. It hasn't been too friendly, but you know, that's just it. Sometimes some people say if you don't go for a move on the final lap, then you know, what's the point? But sometimes certain moves are a little bit too optimistic and a bit too harsh, I suppose.
Well, I mean, there's a difference between a door being open and a door not being open at all. That was a situation where it really wasn't open at all. The move was never going to work. And I mean, some people are trying to say it's like, oh yeah, well, he moved to the right for no reason. There's a corner there. It's a 180-degree hairpin. You have to be at the wall to make that corner. You cannot make that corner if you're already at the inside wall. It's not going to happen. You have to be that far over. It was a silly move altogether, and it honestly, that should not have been how that race ended.
Yeah, very, very silly move indeed. We'll actually be able to talk to one of the GT4 competitors. We might be able to talk to TCR in just a little bit, but let's have a little bit of a chat here. Nolan, you're standing by with William Chadwick, who was for a long time towards the very front of that GT4 battle, but unfortunately things didn't work out in his favor, Nolan. And you have him for the interview.
Hiya, can you hear me? Did you ask me a question? I genuinely was talking to my dad and I didn't listen. First of all, I'll just apologise for the incident with Pascal after my steering was done. That wasn't intentional. I said it in the comments of the stream, but that wasn't intentional on my half. But in terms of the move that I made, It's a hard one to say, because Long Beach being the track that it is, you have to. After I dropped back after my first attempted move just before the hairpin in the final sector, and I'd seen that I was quicker than him after I brought that gap down and closed into him to about 5/10 from a second to 5/10. I knew I was quicker than him. I knew a couple of wave I was in the lead, I believe. And I had to go for the move. I did slightly overcut the braking, which meant I went in deep. But just before I was made contact, I had a look at it, and I was doing quite a few K less than I'd need, and it looks like I'd make the corner. Obviously, I can't tell because he just clips my rear end. I know on his behalf it wasn't intentional. It is racing, but yeah, it's a bit disappointing from my behalf, because I do think I had the pace to win that race.
You certainly had the pace. I mean, you were right with them right through to the end, and even after an earlier struggle there with sticks where you kind of overshot the hairpin even, you caught right back up within just a couple of laps there, so you were definitely with them all the way to the end. But let's kind of go over some of the struggles when it comes to this track. I mean, it's definitely one of the most challenging tracks you can find out there on the iRacing service. It's one of the most famous street circuits in the world as well. So what do you think some of the main general struggles are when you come to a racetrack like this, and what kind of sets it apart from so many other circuits that we have out there?
It's such a rewarding circuit to lap and to practice at, because every lap you take around the circuit, it is on the limit. It is close to the walls. You really have to extract as much as possible from the track, from every exit, every apex, to get the time. And I mean, Pascal's qualifying time was absolutely amazing. I've seen all the qualifying times all week. He's done a few races. That was 3/10 clear of anything that anyone had done all week, and that was an amazing quali lap, and it really shows, if you hit everything perfectly, how good a lap around here can be, and how much skill goes into going fast.
Looking forward to Mid-Ohio, it's another very unique track. It doesn't have a lot of passing opportunities like Long Beach, but unlike Long Beach, there's a lot of runoff areas, so you can afford to make some mistakes, unlike at this track today. It's definitely a lot smoother, but it's got a lot more elevation change as well. So passing very well, maybe a premium at that facility too. Do you think that's going to be the case when we come around there next week?
I think it'll definitely be easier to pass around there, to be honest. I think Long Beach really is an exception. I mean, I could sit 3-4 tenths off the bumper of Pascal and not be able to make a move. But round Mid-Ohio, I definitely believe that it will be easier to make moves, especially due to the nature of the track. The corners at Long Beach allows you to, I don't know if people know this term, but white line it. So you can just hold that defensive line and you can pretty much always come away with the position. That means you really need to be bold in making the moves. Whereas at Mid-Ohio, you can get your switchback moves, you can maybe try around the outside and stuff like that. So I think it will be more varied and there will be more passing opportunities, personally.
Well, before I let you go here, then, William, anybody you'd like to shout out for us here today?
I'd like to shout out United Sim GT. I'm afraid I could have got the win there, but I messed it up a bit. I should have done better, but yeah, no, United Sim Sport GT, all our partners, HRS Sims, not Lonsky, everyone, Harrop, Valvoline. There's a lot of sponsors, but yeah, no, everyone, and Jackson for helping out, and also Alex for the setup. Alex Torres, a very, very good setup engineer, and really helped me do well this week.
Thank you, William, for taking the time to join us here today. Tough luck here today at Long Beach, but best of luck next week. We'll hopefully see you back up and battling for wins when we get around to Mid-Ohio next week.
Right, okay, thank you very much.
That was William Chadwick, who was running up in the second position for a good portion of the race here at Connery. And, well, you wanted to talk to some of the touring car drivers. Well, we got one to kind of give us a chat here today. It's the driver that should have gotten the victory today, but unfortunately did not. Connery Maddock. I'll hand you this one. I'll let you have a speak here with George Simmons.
George. What could have been, of course, we'll talk about that final corner incident in just a little bit. But, apart from that, it seemed like you were very much in control of this race for the vast majority of it. Were you comfortable with your pace here today, or were the two behind a little bit too close for comfort?
I don't know. Quali was rapid. Looked really, really good in quali. Felt good. Thought I could get away from quarantine at the start. And yeah, he was just able to hang on. I think I had like a 1 second gap, made one mistake, and then he was on the back, and that's where he stayed. So I think he probably was quicker than me in race pace, but there's just nowhere to get past me here. So yeah, managed to hold on to it, and yeah, it's a good race.
Yeah, absolutely, and of course, it takes a huge amount of awareness. You got to keep your wits about you, especially in TCR racing when guys are that close. But of course, we all saw what happened there in the final corner. Of course, you were very much the innocent bystander in that one. You just got collected in something that really wasn't any of your business. Just your sort of after 10 or so minutes of that happening, just give me your response right now. What sort of thing goes through your head when something like that happens?
I think in this championship so far, we've seen a lot of really good racing, and hopefully, the TCRs have been putting on a good show, and I've really been enjoying it. So yeah, it's been really good so far this season. Particularly, some of the drivers out there, that you can race, like Quarantine or Kieran Harrison or Miguel Freitas. We've had some really good battles. So yeah, really enjoying this championship so far.
Yeah, we're enjoying it as well, because it seems like every single time, at every single circuit, we have something to talk about in CCRs, because either they're so close, either they're battling incredibly hard, or they're having a bit of drama, as it was at the end of this one. But is that the sort of racing that really draws you to this series? Because it certainly draws me into it as a spectator, as a commentator, when you guys can do what you do. Is that the thrill of racing as well?
Yeah, absolutely. In my opinion, this car's the best on the sim, really. Each week you turn up and you're battling nose to tail, and it's some tracks just draft locked, and it's kind of a bit of a strategy game. Other tracks you can get away from it, and it's a bit more about your driver skill. But yeah, as I said, when you've got the right people around you on track, then you can have some fantastic battles. And so, yeah, I can't recommend the TCR enough, really.
Of course, you've had your own fair share of luck this season, you know, and fair share of very good performances as well. I'm not going to put it all down to luck, George, but of course we have, you know, coming into the back end of the season now, we've got Mid-Ohio next week, we've got the Charlotte Roval week 10, and then you've got Hockenheim and Road Atlanta to finish off the season. So which one out of those 4 tracks would you say is your strongest on iRacing?
To be honest, I don't really like any of the tracks that are coming up, so we'll see. Yeah, I'm expecting. I imagine Mid-Ohio will be very similar to this one. So if we've got the right drivers around us, then we'll have some really good racing. But yeah, it'll be tough to overtake there, and then everyone's just going to have to keep their heads. But and the Roval probably the same thing. To be honest, there's some good opportunities there to cause some mischief if you aren't. You aren't particularly smart. So let's just see how it goes. But hopefully I'll be up the front again. And yeah, it looks like Quarantine's got some good results on the board, but he's missed a few rounds. So if he keeps, scoring well, I think he's actually got the edge in the championship. So I think hopefully, the two of us can have a good little battle at the end and see how it goes.
Hopefully we'll be able to see it again. Hopefully it results in something a little bit better than what we saw here today. But so thank you very much for joining us, George, and best of luck in your next events.
Thank you very much. Cheers, guys. Good stream as always.
All right, so we appreciate it. Thank you, George. I think he's had time to calm down a little bit, Nolan.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say. Wow. I mean, what could have been, what should have been, he's going to have to focus now. This race is over. You have to look forward now to Mid-Ohio. And, well, hopefully things don't boil over if those two drivers find themselves in the same place. Because I know a few people out there on the service, Connery, that they'll make it sound like everything's all well and good. And they'll come and pounce when you're least expecting it.
Yeah, they absolutely will, and this is probably one of the more tricky tracks in the calendar. Now we've got it sort of out of the way. Now here comes the tracks that maybe people aren't used to, or tracks with like sort of the special little properties, like the Roval, for example. It's going to be a very, very interesting one. Mid-Ohio, of course, not raced too much. It does make an appearance on the calendar here and then, but again, it requires a little bit more familiarization by the drivers. So I'm pretty excited for next week as well. But, I mean, what an event we've had here at Long Beach. Maybe not so much overtaking, but certainly plenty of action and a great attrition rate as well, which is what I wasn't expecting. So if these guys can do it, I think it bodes well for other people's official races here as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is one of those tracks where you got to be on your game. And Mid-Ohio is the same way as well. I mean, it's a track that leaves so little room for error. It is nice and narrow. In a lot of places, actually, more narrow than the track here at Long Beach. But, of course, you do have the wider runoff areas. So you do have some room for error. If you make a mistake, though, you won't be losing quite a lot of time. Well, I think with that then, Connery, it is just going to be about time for us to wrap up yet another presentation here of Friday Night Primetime. So, I'd like to give, as always, a big shout out to the drivers for coming over and giving us a chat today. We'd like to thank everybody for tuning in to watch today's presentation. I've been Nolan Rempel with Connor and Maddie beside me in the commentary box, bringing you all the action from start to finish. Connor, you've also been doing a great job behind the cameras as you do every single day, week in, week out. Thank you for joining us once again from here in Long Beach. We will see you all next week.